Hi, I'm Kate, and I hate doing intros, so I'm going to do a speedrun. I made a squirrel, a skull, some flowers and acorns and vines, which ended up taking me weeks to finish, but ended up being one of my favourite sculptures of all time, as well as one of the heaviest, weighing over 1 kilogram. Okay, I may have speedrun a little bit too fast, and now I have some extra time, so here's some Molly pictures. You like them? Well, let's get started. I believe I've used a wooden plaque like this in one of my other videos, probably the Mushroom Grove, which is the video that you've most likely seen, as it's my most popular, annoyingly. Not annoyingly, actually. I say annoyingly, it's because it's broken. That's irrelevant. I cut a long piece of wire. Now, you might be able to tell it's going to be very fiddly and it's gonna wobble a lot and it's gonna get very annoying later on, but don't worry. I figure out a way to make sure that this can actually stand up only on one leg. Might look a bit strange, but that's fine. I wrap as much foil around the metal wire as I can, as if I don't have enough foil and I have to substitute with clay to get the right thickness for the body, it will start weighing it down way too much, so the armature on this piece is very important. I also make sure to bend wires in very difficult ways, like this leg here. Again, just so that that form is right, but also bending thick metal wire into a shape like that isn't very kind to my hands, but that's okay. I also, of course, use masking tape to hold everything in place when things don't exactly want to stay put. The tail is obviously going to be the thickest part, so I need to really bulk that up with some foil. I smack the clay as I usually do. You know, if you've been here before, you probably know I really do like to smack that clay. It makes it warm and a lot easier to roll out. You know, there's my reasoning, and it does work. Try it. I then wrap the clay around this bottom leg here, and of course, you don't know. I always say words like that. I will be taking that bottom clay off just in a little bit, as I realise it starts to get a bit wobbly the more clay that I add on to the rest of the body. It looks a little bit wrinkly right now, but the more clay that I add on later, the smoother the shape will get. Of course, I do need to add some clay where I haven't added foil, like on that leg there. I then start to bulk it out using more clay. Like I said, I don't want to use too much, so I'm just trying to put down some clay just to get the shape smoothed out, as I can't really do that with the clay that I have on right now, as it's touching the foil directly and it tends to get a bit wrinkly. Now, this is how I make sure that it stays down. I get some metal wire and wrap it around this bottom leg. You might be wondering, but wouldn't that make the leg way too thick? Well, you won't actually be able to see the leg because it'll become sort of like vines wrapping around it later on, but that's not to worry about right now. So keep bulking out, especially this leg. I really like how the shape of that back leg has come out. Usually, you know, doing animals it can be quite difficult for me, because getting back legs are definitely it's difficult for me. I don't know why. It might be easy for you if you sculpt. Areas like this hand, I have added too much foil, so it's good to kind of go back and take some out, even though it, you know, uses up time and it's a little bit tedious, but that's okay. I also do make sure to add extra clay just for the paws at the end of the feet, as I, again, didn't add any foil there. Then, using these ball tools, I space out 2 kind of eye sockets so that I can start making the eyes using some cabochons. I haven't used them in quite a while. So pretty much how they work are they're little half domes, so one side's flat, one side is round, and then you paint on the flat side, and then the round side looks quite nice. On the other side it kind of makes a fisheye lens sort of look. So I paint the white highlights, and then I paint the black pupil, and then the iris around. Is it pupil? Wait, I don't know. You know, the black part and then the brown part, and usually I'd make them a little bit more detailed, but that doesn't really matter. Now, I'm pushing them in quite hard into the squirrel's head, because if you have a air socket behind the cabochon, it can lead to some not very nice results. I have had it before where the like paint on the back of the cabochon pretty much melted off underneath a whole sculpture that I made. This was years ago, but it ended up looking okay, so just be careful with it. Anyways, the eyes did look quite bulbous. Oh jeez, that's a horrible word. So I added some more clay around the head as well, just to make sure that they don't look a bit too, you know, fly-like. You know what I mean? I don't even know what I mean. I define the paws a little bit and then I start to make the ears. Making the ears at this point was a very big mistake, as I have the entire rest of the sculpture to finish, and kind of, you know, having this very thin, flimsy ear in the way the entire time. Yes, I did damage it quite a few times. It got quite annoying and in the way. I did have to fix it at the very end before I put it in the oven. But, you know, just this is why ordering things is very important, because if you don't order things in the right way, you are very likely to mess up details that you have already made. This is one of those times. And usually I'm quite good at ordering things. But I guess not today. I was being silly. And then I drilled 5 holes into the wooden plaque and started putting some metal wire into them, kind of going up in height and then back down. Now, I wrapped some foil around it, so that is kind of thin, and then I stopped adding foil about here and start adding the clay because I ran out of foil. so I just went straight onto clay, kind of layering it down. Usually I'd use the clay glue, but as the foil is quite rough, it doesn't really matter. Then after I get more foil, I of course add the rest on. Some parts didn't stick, so I added some masking tape, which helped, and then of course the rest of the clay. This consumes a lot more clay than you might assume. Then, of course, clay glue on the base so that I can attach the clay. I have tried to attach clay directly to wood before. It doesn't stick. It doesn't stick. It really does not like to stick. So having clay glue on hand at this point, very good. It's a thing you want, really. Then I do something and this uses even more clay. You can imagine how heavy this one's going to get. It's my heaviest sculpture I've ever made. So I go in with these sort of lines, spindly little bits of clay, and I just squiggle them about the backdrop. This is going to become vines all over, just all over the place. This is also what's going to wrap around the squirrel's paw. But just vines everywhere. I squeeze bits of clay into every crack that I can get into, not really leaving any place untouched. Now you might hate me for doing this, but I did blend out the vines into the clay beneath. I did do this for a reason though. I know it does look like kind of more like vines while it's not like that, but in the end it makes sure that they're secure to the base, as if I don't do this then they're more likely to kind of like flimsy about. That's not really an expression, but you know what I mean. So I put them down. But also later on it does kind of help. I realised, I didn't mean to, but it does help with making sure that the attention isn't taken away from everything else. Because I feel like it would be quite distracting having all of those shadows that are very harsh. So, you know, by blending it out, I am kind of decreasing that shadow just a little bit. And yeah, in the end, it does draw the attention a little bit less away from the vines themselves and more to the flowers and the squirrel and the skull and the acorns and everything else. Of course, like I said, I wrap it around the squirrel's arm as well. And the base. I can assume you're a bit bored of this by now. I definitely was. It was a very annoying process and I kept running out of clay again and again, and blending it was difficult because it kept moving about. This is the last bit I'll show you quickly. I do curl them around the base of the wood. This helps both attach the entire thing to the wood, but also it kind of just makes it look a bit nicer, like the vines are creeping onto the wood below. I personally like having a touch like that in one of my sculptures. I then start making the flowers out of Cosclay, the bendable clay, as you probably know by now. Now, most of these flowers were fine to make. This one I, you know, brought it out, pushed it, pinched the edges, put them together, stuff like that. There was one flower that was a bit more difficult though. the lavender. I'll tell you about that later though, because it was horrible. What a horrible flower to make. Lovely flower, but horrible to make. Anyways, I don't really know what to name the flowers exactly. I can't really name this. I mean, does it have a name? No, because I didn't really base it off an actual real flower. I just winged it. Wung it? I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it's not really a flower. You can't really call it a flower. You could call this one a flower. This is definitely a rose. Not a very well done rose, because it was one of my firsts, and I started realising that I put the petals too far up as I was going outwards, which made it kind of a cone shape instead of like a nice sloping sort of shape. And also I didn't use enough petals near the edges, so it just looked a bit strange, but then of course I did improve it. Here's a side-by-side by one of the last and first ones that I made. Obviously the last ones are way better because I actually learned how to do them a bit nicer. This flower is quite similar to the first ones that I did, where you pinch one end, well, this time you only pinch one end, not both, and then you turn it down and put it onto this kind of middle pollen thingy area that I place down onto the table in the middle. So first I make 4, and then I make another 4 and put them in the corners of those, and then I make these sort of little little, I don't know what they are. They're like little spiky bits, but they're not spiky, they're kind of round. And then I put them in between the in-betweens, you know? So there's just a lot of little flimsy bits on this one. But it's one of my favourites. They are very cute. They're already... I like very textured flowers, like ones with lots of petals, but it gets very, very difficult and very annoying and very time-consuming. But that's why I make this one. Now the lavender. This... Okay, so what I do is I have a piece of metal wire, very thin, and then I wrap some Cosclay around it. Now, you'll see me using scissors. I pretty much, well, this really hurt me, quite honestly. Do you see that snipping action I do? So what I do is I go around one time, where I make kind of precise, calculated cuts. Not really, I'm not that smart. And then I go in afterwards and snip kind of just crazy all over the place, and it makes it nice and spiky, and it looks like lavender, at least after it's painted. Now the problem with this is that those little scissors that I'm using, well, they're really tight, and they ended up actually really, really hurting my hand. You see there? You see that little, like, thing on my hand? I don't know. It got so bad that at one point I had to just stop and give up for the day because my skin almost got broken by them, like it was digging in that deep. And I could have used thicker scissors, but then they would have been too thick and they wouldn't have snipped the clay as nicely. But anyways, after the flowers are all baked, I start adding them. So the lavender, I add mostly around the edges just for now, but then I do add it to the main body of the backdrop later on. To secure the flowers, all I really do is put a bit of clay glue on the back of it, and then just, because they're already baked, I can really just push them in there as hard as possible and not have to worry about them, you know, getting broken or anything. So I just press them in as hard as I can. The clay glue will secure them after they're baked, and of course pressing them in really hard will help it stay still before it's baked. I spread the flowers out as much as I can, making sure that there's different flowers in every section, because also the colours of the flowers will be mostly the same, like flowers of the same type will be the same, so I don't want the colours to be the same in the same area. But anyways, I start making the skull. You'll see at the start I try to use foil, realised my mistakes because I've made skulls before and it has not gone very well. So, you know, again, this is wrong. I put masking tape on and then realised my mistakes again because it doesn't look right. It's not how I wanted it. So I take the masking tape off, bend the wire again, put the masking tape on again, and then just, it's, okay. In my whole time of sculpting, this is the 3rd skull I have ever made. There's one on my channel and there's one that I did very early on when I started sculpting. I actually have it quite near me right now. It's a horrifying sight to look at, but, you know. And as this is the 3rd, like, skull I've ever made, I think I have improved. Now, the process of it is very messy. It's just me going back and forth, realizing, oh, I did that wrong, take it apart. Oh no, I did that wrong, I'll take it apart. Oh wait, but I need to add more there, and then there's wire here, and then I like, it's just very difficult. I don't know what I'm waffling about, I'm sorry. But, you know, skulls are one of the most tedious things for me to make, just because there's holes in them, there's, you know, gaps, and it's just very annoying. But yeah, in all honesty, this is the best one I've made so far, and I hope to keep improving because I really do like making skulls. But pretty much, actually, I haven't explained this. The story behind this is that this is a fox skull. Foxes are predators of squirrels, so it's kind of ironic that there is a squirrel, you know, squirrel standing over a fox skull and stuffing its head with acorns, you know. Sorry, I know that's just very out of nowhere, but that's the symbolism. But also, I created that symbolism just so that I had an excuse to make another skull, because I really like making skulls, and I don't really have enough excuses to make them. But it came out nice, and obviously I'm only doing the top half of the skull, not the bottom half, just because I think that would look better. It would look too thick with the bottom half of the skull on the sculpture, so just did the top half. Top halves are better anyways. Of course, I have to texture the teeth. I've gotten better at teeth as well, so I kind of indent them and then split them up, and then there's also some big teeth at the front that I have to blend in, and I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. You know me. I mean, if you've been here before, you probably know that I don't have a script. I'm speaking out my butt. But I keep going, adding more and more clay. I do bulk it out, and bulking it out on this one is actually quite good because it holds its shape better. Because it was very flimsy earlier before I added a lot more clay, and now it actually looks like a skull. The best one I've done as well. Oh, awesome. But yeah, I use this kind of spiky tool and just add those lines that are like the plates of the bone in the head, you know. I texture it a little bit, and then I put it in the oven. While it's in the oven, I add some more lavender and Molly. Our new channel mascot for this month is Molly. She's very silly. I don't know. But yeah, because it's Halloween, I changed the icon for my channel. Sorry if that's a bit random. It's not even October yet, but you know, October's spooky and I love October. So I had to actually make a lot more flowers, and the first batch of flowers that I made took me an entire day, so having to make more kind of annoyed me. But, you know. Then I go in and texture the vines with my spiky tool, and I drag it kind of in the direction of each vine. You might be wondering why I didn't do this before adding the flowers, but that's just because if I press in the flowers, I'll have to put my hand kind of on the other side of the backdrop, and then if it's already been textured, I would smush the texture, so texturing afterwards is probably the best thing I could have done here instead of doing it before. I was thinking about doing it before, but then I remembered that, oh my gosh, ordering things is very important. Making sure that things are in the right order is good. And I usually don't plan it, so I kind of just have to wing it, and then sometimes I add more things to my sculptures where I haven't planned it, and then it gets kind of out of whack and out of order, but that's okay. It's okay. Because the thing is, I don't get annoyed if anything is ruined. Like, I mean, if I had to go back and fix a detail that got damaged or smushed or broke because of something else that I had to do that I realised later, it's not the end of the world. It's, you know, it's just a bit of time lost. That's fine. I don't mind. So, but still, just in the long run, ordering things saves you a lot of time and a lot of effort as well. Then I start to make the squirrel tail. Sorry, I'm waffling. Just to put this out there, this is a red squirrel, not a normal squirrel. You could probably tell from the thumbnail. I don't know. Well, I haven't made the thumbnail yet, but, you know, it'll probably show it. So I want the tail to be as frilly as possible. I don't do it tough. Like, these are little tufts of fur, and it gets smaller as you go down. Lots and lots of little baby tufts, but kind of looks like a pine cone. You know? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I said to myself, this looks like a pine cone. My sister walks into my room, says that looks like a pine cone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I said. I don't know, I'm waffling about anyways, but it does kind of look like a pine cone, and pretty much these little tufts of fur make, I mean, it's stylized. It's not supposed to look like the exact way that a squirrel's tail will look like, where it's all soft and, you know, frilly out there, you know what I mean. But it's supposed to be stylized. It's supposed to be big and bushy and lots of tufts of fur that make it so that you can tell what it's supposed to look like while also being in a style. You know what I mean? Probably not at this point. Anyways, with that same tool, I go in across the entire body and just using little small scratches, not too deep but not too shallow, I make the fur texture for the rest of the body. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, like say the owlbear video, you know that, or like Ludo, you know that sometimes I do like to add actual fur, like not actual fur, but like little tufts of fur, like I did on the tail, all over a sculpture. I'm not doing that for this one. It's too big, and also I feel like it would just be a bit too much. Like it would look too much, you know what I mean? Anyways, I add oh no, not the vine. Okay, I skipped over the vines. I saved you. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I start to make the acorns. So I use some foil with some clay, and then I kind of split the head of the acorn, add a little bit on top, and then to texture it, I go left and right and left and right and left and right. Just back and forth, and then I keep doing that the whole way across, and then I go up a row, and then I go it kind of in between the last one. I don't know how to say it. And then I do it again, and it's like the acorns doing a little dance as a texture. It's like, oh, yeah, wiggle, wiggle. Oh my god. Sorry. Many apologies for just who I am. Anyways, I make lots and lots of acorn. I won't show you them all. Sometimes I just make the little acorn caps. I think I make 2 of them. But, so I placed them down. I haven't attached them yet. This is just me attaching them with the clay glue. I had to do kind of the placing of them off camera, as my hand, it was pretty much just footage of my hand in front of the camera the entire time. I don't think you really want to see that. So this is just me placing them in, just everywhere. So it's like the squirrel has hidden its acorns in the skull. Then, after I have baked the entire sculpture, as that was the last bit, I then go in with some watered down glue and I just put it all over this wood, just so that it doesn't chip like it did before, like right at the start of the video, because I found it like that in the shop, and it was the one that was the least chipped, you know? Not great. Anyways, I start painting quite a dark green at first, just all over the vines. This took me hours to do, by the way, because of each little groove that I made. I have to make sure that my paintbrush actually gets in there, and doing that can be quite difficult, especially when you have a giant squirrel in your way. Also, while I baked it, I did actually kind of make a little contraption like I usually do, because the squirrel is upright and on one paw. I actually had to use a piece of metal wire to hold it up, like an extra piece, but now that it's obviously baked, it stays perfectly still. Mostly still, not perfectly, but you know. I then go in with this brown and orange. So the back of a red squirrel is kind of brown, and then everything else is sort of orangey red, mostly orange. You call it a red squirrel because it's like calling, you know, a ginger a redhead. You wouldn't call them orange. I'm sorry, that was really out of nowhere. But to blend, without an airbrush, so you can blend with an airbrush, or you can blend using watered down paint. Sorry, I'm trying to slow down. I'm not good at this. Watered down paint just makes it easier so that the paint doesn't dry as quickly, so you know, you have more time to blend it. Of course, I touch up this area here because it looks really horrible right now, but I promise it gets better later on. So the white on the stomach, then the red kind of on the edges of areas, and then the brown right on the back. And also the base of the tail, I used brown. It does dry darker, by the way. I squeeze it into every little crevice because it's so annoying and it doesn't want to get in there, but I managed to get it in every little bit. This is just the base coat, and then I go and dry brush. So using a minimal amount of paint on my paintbrush, I say minimal, I used a little bit, and then I just like whack it across the surface, and so the brown stays in the cracks and then the orange is on top, and you know what I mean. I then paint this flower and then immediately realise my mistake. I was supposed to dry brush on the vines first, otherwise if I paint all the flowers and then I try and texture the vines, I'll get all the green on the vines, and I don't want to do that. But either way, this is how I paint the pink flower here. Just wanted to show you, just so that you knew. because I don't show you again. That's, you know. I go in there with a light green, and then once that's dried I go in the kind of yellowish green, a bit lighter, and then I go in with an even lighter yellow after that. I just keep layering it on like this. This is a, oh my gosh, itchy head. This is a light yellow, and then after the light yellow's done, I actually go in with gold. If you've watched the Mushroom Grove video, like I referenced earlier, you might know that on the moss texture I did, I actually used a bit of gold just to make it look a bit nicer, a bit more shiny. It just kind of brings it, you know, it makes it look more enchanted. It's quite a cute, nice little touch, and I only add it on the edges of the vines. But of course, I didn't use any moss. Doing a nature piece without moss is like the most difficult thing I can do, because I was so tempted to do it at one point, but I persevered and stayed with the vines, and the vines look so cute, and I really like the vines, but I prefer moss, gotta admit. But vines suited this one better. Anyways, these are the flowers, the different colours that I do. I do blue, orange, pink, yellow, red, a darker orange, obviously a purple for the lavender, just lots of different colours. I use different blending techniques on each of them. The lavender, you'll see me just putting down the purple right now. I'll come back to it later because I need to wait for it to dry as it's kind of globbed on there. Then on the acorns, I start off with this dark sort of brown, and then once that's on, I dry brush a sort of lighter, more orangey colour on top of it. And then the caps are dark as well. I come back to them too because, you know, they need to dry. Then I kind of sort of dry brush, but not really dry brush, a light purple and then almost a white purple on the tips of the lavender, and then of course this colour onto the tops of the acorns too. The skull colour, I've also gotten better at painting skulls too. I've realised my mistakes of the past. The colours of skulls is mostly yellow, not white, and it's not grey, it's not brown, it's yellow and white, just mostly yellow and creamy colour, especially if it's more worn down than this. But anyways, the last detail is scratching out the cabochons, getting all that paint off and cleaning it, and then it's done. Like I said right at the start of this video, this is one of my favourites. Just everything about it makes me so happy to look at. I love the lavender, the acorns, the skull, the squirrel itself, all the other flowers, the vines, everything about this makes me proud that I've made this. I've spent so long, and also it's the heaviest thing that I've ever made. It's over 1 kilogram, which, you know, most my second biggest one is about 70. No, 700, not 70. So of course that's the reason why this video took so long, and I'm so sorry that it's been a while. My last video was a filler. It wasn't big, it was tiny. This is my biggest video by far, I think. So just, if you did stick around this video, genuinely thank you, because it would baffle me that someone would stick around for about 29 whole minutes listening to me pretty much ramble on and barely even know what I'm saying, let alone what you might think I'm saying. I don't know. But, you know, of course, thank you. And you are legally obligated to subscribe to me, as it is my birthday. So if you don't, then Santa's not coming this year. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Anyways, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Have an amazing day. Thank you for sticking around so long. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you so much. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Like and subscribe. Like I said, I already said that. I don't know what's up with me. And goodbye. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.